fan of the cartoon strip Peanuts. You know the cast of characters. There's Charlie Brown, who can't ever quite seem to get anything right. Snoopy, the faithful beagle. Lucy, my personal favorite. She's a little cranky, but she does offer psychiatric help for only 5 cents per session. And then there's Linus, who's the most together member of the whole group, I believe, because of his beloved blanket. Were you a Linus? Was there a blanket or a doll or a teddy bear in your life? Our Becca had a blanket. She got attached to this blanket when she was about 1 year old. It was a chenille blanket. It had a little pink and blue lamb on it. It was great. It was absolutely necessary at bedtime. It came on many car trips with us. Wherever blanket Becca was, you could be sure her blanket was in the near vicinity. Well, of course, occasionally this blanket needed to be washed. And I would try to pick a time when Becca was busy playing with friends or doing something, so she wouldn't miss it. And that was fine. I'd get it in the washing machine. And one time I remember she came to me looking for her blanket. And it wasn't quite dry yet. And I told her, Becca, honey, it's in the dryer. It'll be ready in just a minute. And I can remember her patiently standing by the dryer, waiting for her blanket. Well, she loved her blanket when she was 1, and when she was 2, and when she was 3. And at about the age of 3 1/2, Billy was born. Well, Billy was premature and had to stay in the hospital for a couple of weeks. And we wanted the girls, Heather and Becca, both to have an opportunity to meet their new brother. So we made arrangements to take them down to the hospital. And we noticed before we left that Becca's blanket was, instead of over her arm where it usually resided, it was in a nice, neat little pocket. When we asked what was going on, Becca said she was taking her blanket to her baby brother in the hospital. Our sweet 3-year-old, at great cost to herself, was giving all she had out of love for her brother. And this was a gift of extravagant love. I wonder, what might this extravagant love look like in a disciple of Jesus Christ? Our text today is John 12. We'll be reading verses 1 through 8. 6 days before Passover, Jesus arrived at Bethany, where Lazarus lived, whom Jesus had raised from the dead. Here dinner was given in Jesus' honor. Martha served, while Lazarus was among those reclining at the table with him. Then Mary took about a pint of pure nard, an expensive perfume. She poured it out at Jesus' feet and wiped his feet with her hair. And the house was filled with the fragrance of perfume. But one of his disciples, Judas Iscariot, who was later to betray him, objected. Why wasn't the perfume sold and the money given to the poor? It was worth a year's wages. Well, he said this not because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief. As keeper of the money bag, he used to help himself to what was put into it. Leave her alone, Jesus replied. It was intended that she should save this perfume for the day of my burial. You'll always have the poor among you, but you will not always have me. Well, at a party thrown in Jesus' honor, Mary anoints Jesus' feet with expensive perfume. We've met Mary, her sister Martha, and her brother Lazarus before. We remember when Jesus was in their home and Martha was in the kitchen serving. Mary was sitting at Jesus' feet. Martha was not happy with that. We remember she complained to Jesus, why wasn't Mary in helping her? And Jesus said Mary had chosen what was best. Then later, when Lazarus is sick and dying, the sisters know who to call. And they send for Jesus, but it takes him a few days to get there, and by the time he's there, Lazarus is in the tomb. He's been dead for several days. And Jesus calls Lazarus forth from the grave, and he comes out alive and whole. No wonder this family is having a dinner for Jesus. Jesus is loved and honored in this family, and he has been for some time. And we see in our text today that Mary loves Jesus extravagantly. As I've considered this passage, I think Mary's love has both a physical and a spiritual aspect to it. And in all that, Mary's giving all she has. We'll be considering both physical and spiritual love today, and what this love of Jesus, physical and spiritual, might look like in our lives. First, the physical. We're told Mary takes a pint of pure nard that's an expensive oriental perfume. We're told it's worth about 300 denarii. We know if we look back at the time that a day laborer in this time would make 1 denarius. So we've got 300 of those. 300 days worth of wages. If you think about weekends and holidays, we've got a year's wages here. Can you imagine perfume worth a whole year's wages? I try to think of what a year's wages would look like in the Gibson household. We, of course, have our weekly trips to Kroger or Ingles or Food Line, and there I'm getting the canned goods and the meat and the yogurt and the shampoo and all that sort of stuff. And there'd be gas for the 2 cars. Our monthly items, you know, you've got a house payment, a car payment, utilities, maybe a trip to Walmart or Home Depot. And then your miscellaneous items in a whole year, of course, you've got your clothing, some shoes, of course, and a trip or 2 to Krispy Kreme. Well, you put all this together. I mean, I've tried to think of all our expenses in a year and put it all together. And I have to ask myself, how would I feel about giving all that physical stuff up for Jesus? A whole year's worth. And not just giving it up, but lovingly, extravagantly offering it up, pouring it out to Jesus. Just like Mary did.